Hello guys, my name is White Bunny because White Bunny represents everything we chase in life. Everything we chase that we can never catch. Things that we want that we can never have. All those things. And I represent the reality of people. Me. I represent a common, normal person that feels like there's no choice but to chase these things. Now, let's talk about chasing. I feel like the number of times I've had the opportunity to talk to girls versus the number of times that I've been approached romantically and I had the option of saying no to a girl and even felt like even just the option of saying no to a girl that was interested romantically or something. Those proportions are basically like no. I think like once I've had a girl that was like approaching me and I was like, that makes me feel like I need to chase girls because if I don't, my chances go from slim to none to none. And this is quite personal and it's just my experience, honestly. It could have to do with me putting myself down, having depression, not liking or loving myself at one point for a long time. When you don't love yourself, when you don't like yourself and all that stuff that I know I've experienced. Maybe during those times it is harder to have a positive outlook or have an open mind when approaching people, when talking with people. And maybe that is off-putting to girls and they just feel like, okay, that guy just doesn't want any attention and just wants the world to leave him alone. Which in a certain angle, that is true. But outside of that, it just feels very difficult, at least for me. And it makes me think like, honestly, it's very similar to a lot of other things. There are a lot of goals that people have that they chase. And those goals seem really hard or really unachievable or some, version of that. And then, you might burn out before you can even get to a point where you feel like you gave it a good shot. All sorts of things can kind of trip your way up going towards that goal. And goal chasing can be very depressing in a way. So, because the more you work towards your goal and the more you see how much time you've banked into that goal and the goal isn't met yet, the more risk of sunk costs just being completely sunk and pointless almost becomes a real problem. And it causes more depression. But then, I think about successful people and how, in a lot of ways, we look at them as perfect and not flawed and all these things. But the thing is that a lot of those people will put a certain version of themselves that they want on the internet. And that's the version that the community is interested in seeing. And then maybe if there's certain sides of them that they don't want to show or shouldn't show and whatever, we don't get to see those sides. And then boom, you got this successful image of somebody. And when they open up, maybe they open up about certain things, but that thing that they're good at kind of like outshadows the things that might be their flaws. But the thing is, they don't let the flaws dictate what they do to try to succeed. They learn to deal with themselves to a point where they can do the things that they want. They can pursue the things that they decided to pursue and then succeed. But in a way, we're locked into having to do certain specific things in order to gain success because a lot of things don't work. A lot of things don't give you success. This kind of brings me to a certain point. There are some things in life that are unavoidable on the opposite spectrum of what is unattainable. Because something being unattainable is the coin's side, the other coin, the side of something being unattainable is one side of the coin, and the other side of the coin being something that is unavoidable. When something's unavoidable, it's impossible to avoid attaining it, right? It's going to happen. It's unavoidable. So it's impossible to attain a situation where you avoid it. One of the perfect examples of this is dying. All of us have a certain moment when we will die, and we will no longer be in this rented body that we're in. One of the perfect examples of something that is unattainable is avoiding dying. We're all going to die. We can do things that will, delay dying, but eventually you will die, right? So it got me thinking, I love to think in absolutes. I love to think, okay, this always happens. This never happens. If I do this, then the thing that never happens will have a high chance of happening. And then, I go from the absolutes to, 90% something happens. 10% something doesn't happen. 80% of something happening, chance. 0%, 5% of something, chance of something happening. I love to think in that kind of way, and then I decide what I should be doing around those percentages based on what I want and don't want to happen with my life, right? And then I turn on lazy mode and I don't do the things that I should be doing. And then I go, can't believe the consequences are happening because I'm too lazy to do the things I know I should be doing. But that's a whole nother problem. The point is that I like to think in absolutes and in, common sense level of what is close to an absolute. And rationalizing can help with figuring out that kind of stuff. I like that because it gives me certain parameters in how I approach my life and how I make decisions and how I run my life so that I don't have regrets, so that I can be happy with what I'm doing, and so that my best is good enough for me. But if we think about it, there is one thing that we cannot avoid, which is dying. But in some ways, we can avoid other things. We can be indoors and avoid being in touch with coronavirus. We can be making online friends and playing video games all day and avoid having to go outside and expose ourselves to the anxiety of meeting people in person. You can go on VR chat and meet people in person without having to meet people in person, without the risk of being stuck in a situation you don't want to be stuck in. There's all kinds of solutions and all kinds of ways to be free of dealing with things head on. Be free of fear, be free of problems and maybe sides of yourself that you don't want to deal with, or you don't want them to take over your life. So you put yourself in situations that are customized to avoid whatever you want to avoid. And it makes us feel like we have a certain freedom in our life. We can run our life however we want and deal with things that we have to deal with and not deal with things we don't have to deal with. And as technology and as just life in the 21st century continues to change, freedom seems to be easier and easier to acquire, especially having the fact that a lot of things are virtualized and all that stuff. And this brings me to a point. We were talking about freedom. When I look at these successful people, honestly, the more you are pushed up, the more success you have, the more maybe you're getting more famous with what you're doing. Maybe you have more clients, you have more options of all these clients. Especially with people who have their face on the internet and people who are making success that way. Let's say streamers, musicians, different people like that. The more you grow, the more you have a certain criteria and rules that you set for yourself to continue growing in the way that you want to. And as life moves around and changes, certain things are customary to doing in order to gain success, and then certain things are not. And you start to have to build yourself all of this rules in your life in order to succeed. Dying is a rule that every person must follow. We must all eventually pass away. So if we have no choice in the matter of abiding by this rule, and by abiding by the rule that we only get to live through life once, we only get to be once at 18 years old, we only get to be a 24-year-old once, you only get to be 12-year-old once, 30-year-old once, 50-year-old once. All these things only happen once in your life. Then it kind of removes the fear of following rules and kind of setting yourself all these rules. Because think about it. Yeah, maybe money buys you a certain opportunity to do things that you want, and you get to make choices which you can control at a maybe greater margin. But getting to that point requires setting yourself rules and setting yourself discipline that will gain you the success that you might be looking for. And then that money, you're going to need to do things with that money at that level or at that height that allow you to keep that money, that allow you to continue earning that money, that allow you to be happy with the money that you spend, that allow you to not lose this, what you've built for yourself. And in a way, that's not really freedom at all. If I'm sitting at home and I don't have any followers or any subscribers or anyone watching what I'm doing or anyone really caring, I don't have to follow any rules. I'm free. I do what I want and nobody's watching, nobody's caring, nobody's criticizing, nobody's trying to tell me what I should be doing, what I should do next, etc. No one's backseat gaming my life. Then I don't have to follow any rules in a way. I can just do whatever I can do with legal constraint, and that's it. There's my life. But we're not free, because that moment that you're doing whatever you want is a moment that you can never get back because you're going to die one day. So you're already constrained by that rule. If you have to accept that you're constrained by one rule of life, then you might as well accept being constrained by other rules of life. Because not having success versus having success, both don't reward true freedom. True freedom comes from here, from inside. So, and that freedom isn't even a freedom that allows you to live forever. It doesn't discard all the other things that constrain your freedom. So, in a way, you don't have a choice but to abide by rules of life. Because you're here, you're alive, you're watching this video, whatever, you have to follow the rules of how life works. And that's it. I mean, it's a pretty complicated game of life with like what you can do, can't do, how you do things, how you work, how you don't work, what you like, don't like, what your passion is, what your calling is, all this stuff. It's just endless complexity. But it's in the end, it's still a game with a rule book. And if you can figure out that rule book and follow the rules and min-max to do what you want in the game, then you're more close to being happy. But freedom doesn't exist. The game is designed to have rules. So you are designed to exist and function within rules. Something I've been thinking about is, why not just accept that you have to follow certain rules of life? Instead of worrying about holding on to that freedom of doing what you want and emancipation and things of that nature. It's not real. What's real is your bandwidth of options. But those options are always going to be within the rules of what you can do. Or you might as well start getting used to following rules of life and learning about life and engaging in life, since you have no choice but to do that. Since you don't really have a choice in the matter. Either you're good at life or you suck at life. But life's still happening. Other people are still in the match of the giant game of life, and they're still living and they're still doing things in it, and they're just as restrained by life as you are. They're all going to die just like you. Might as well start learning the handbook, and might as well just take action and do things in life and pursue your life and take charge and make things happen. Might as well do that, because there's no other time. There's no time like the present. So, yeah. Now, the nice thing about life is that the world does change. The rules do change in life, with the exception of the one. So, maybe if in one moment you're just not happy, or you're not, you're not feeling doing something, maybe there's something you can do while you're not feeling like doing this other thing that might change the rules of like how you feel. And then you'll feel like doing that thing later. And then when you want to do that thing later, you can go ahead and do it. And then you would do it. And then that thing that you wanted to do, because of the certain effect that might have on your life, is going to happen. And there's ways to kind of manipulate around and get to the checkpoints that you might want. So technically sitting around waiting for something to happen does work sometimes. But while you're waiting around, time's just ticking on. So might as well do something else while you're waiting for the first thing that you really wanted. And then just move around. Keep kind of plowing through life and keep going towards your goals. And with that kind of outlook, I think a person can get through anything, really. So go out there and make the best of your life while you got it. Peace. Oh, and White Rabbit is saying bye as well. Goodbye. Thanks for watching the video.